Hey guys, Kim with Storytime Soap Shop. Today I'm going to be going over deconstruction. I was having discussion with some people in the Easy Colors group I'm a member of. There's a lot of people who are always asking for recipes, or where did you find this, or where did you find that. The first thing of note is that it's really important to understand and educate yourself on your ingredients. If you educate yourself on ingredients that we're putting into these bath and body products, then that'll help you deduce like what to put together and how to get the outcome that you're looking for. And I'll show you or kind of demonstrate that here in a little bit when we actually get to making the product. I'm going to make this with you. We'll see how it turns out. But yeah, so if you understand your ingredients, you can kind of move forward from there. So we're going to deconstruct an ingredient list for shower jellies, and we'll see if we can make them. First, let's take a look at the ingredients. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is take a look at our ingredient list. Now, we can safely take everything from after fragrance clear down to blue one and get rid of it, because we are not, or at least I'm not for the purposes of the video, going to use fresh fruit juice because I don't want to use that strong of a preservative to preserve it. That is one thing this company does. Yeah, there's still some really great ingredients, but when you get down to preserving them safely, now you're using a preservative that I'm not so comfortable with, not in my store at least. So what we're left with is the glycerin, water, liquid surfactant, propylene glycol, carrageenan, fragrance, and color. Now, as I said in the intro, it's important to get to know your ingredients, what they're for, and what they do, what the properties are. For instance, the propylene glycol can serve to thicken. It's also a humectant, so that's why it's in there. You can use it up to 50%, but we know from looking at our list of ingredients that it's not at 50% because glycerin and water and our surfactant are before the propylene glycol. So even if the first three were 30% each, that would only leave you with like 10% propylene glycol. So I'm going to call propylene glycol safe at 10%. Now, how much carrageenan? Now, it is used as a like vegan gelatin kind of. It's a seaweed extract. Now, for a gelatin to like say eat, they recommend it at 1.5%. We know we want these shower jellies to hold up in, a hot shower. And if you think about putting a Jello in the bottom of your shower, that probably wouldn't hold up for very long. So we're going to slightly more than double it. This next slide shows you that, I don't know why that's highlighted red still, but it really disperses in cool liquids, so we're going to add it to our cool phase. Before we heat up our water and glycerin, we're going to add it to that. So this is what I figured out, right? So our propylene glycol is at 10%. We know our fragrance is safe in soap at 4 to 5%. Our preservative at 0.5%. So that leaves these three, the glycerin, water, and liquid surfactant. Glycerin being the most. Okay, we have, after you see 10, 13 and a half, 14 plus 5. So we have about 80% left to use. So if we put our glycerin the most quantity, you have about 40% or 39%, and your water at 29%. Now you can move these back and forth and adjust them at will to serve your purpose, but really, since we're trying to follow an ingredient list, they had glycerin at a higher percentage, so I figured 39 for glycerin, 29 for water, and that leaves us with 14% for our surfactant. I am going to, for the purposes today, use decyl glucoside. There are many reasons why. One, it's approved for like Whole Foods, and it's a gentle surfactant. It's a non ionic, surfactant, yada, yada, yada. That goes into getting to know your ingredients. So we have all these percentages. I hate math, so I absolutely love SoapMaker 3 software. This is where you can plug in your percentages, and it'll give you the ounces if you're working with ounces or grams. And let's see if we can make some jellies. I'm going to get some gloves on here real quick. And the first thing that we're going to start with is our glycerin. So we're going to zero that out. And we want about then we need to add our water. We're just going to go ahead and give that a stir real quick, just to kind of get the glycerin and water combined. And then I got a small packet here of the carrageenan, and I'm going to measure that in a separate little container here just to make sure I don't overdo it. Now this is, I believe, a seaweed extract, red seaweed. Okay. Well, now I'm going to take that.
Powering off.
And I'm going to mix that in with my cold ingredients here. And I don't know if this is necessary or not, but it seems to me like, just like if you've ever bloomed gelatin, you have to get that mixed in with your cold water and let it sit. Now that, I don't know how long to let this sit. We're just going to let it sit while we measure out our other ingredients, because why not, right? And I'm here to tell you, this does not smell really good right now. Kind of smells like stagnant pond water. And we will measure our surfactant, which I'm going to use decyl glucoside, I hope I'm saying that right, in this container. Almost there. There we go. I could not find my propylene glycol. It's freaking me out a little bit. Okay. I haven't even used it yet. See, I had to wait for this to come in the mail so that I can make this video. Okay. Holy Moses, this is messy. This container is not very good to pour out of. Okay, here, I have a paper towel to clean this up. In this container, or in this pot, I have my water, my glycerin, and my carrageenan. This is all still at room temperature. In this container, I have my liquid surfactant and my propylene glycol. And now we're going to measure out our fragrance, and we're going to go ahead and just drop our color in here so we can add it all at once. So I need 0.1 ounces of Germal Plus. There we go. I'm going to fragrance this with lavender martini fragrance oil at 0.6 ounces, which is 4%. And then we're just going to put a drop of color in there. You could probably color this with any mica or lake or dye that you want. I am partial to easy colors, and it's water soluble, so it's not really going to do much in there until we add it to the other stuff. But there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and get this on the stove and bring it to a boil, and I'll take you over there. This is cold. I just turned it on, and as you can see, we're already starting to kind of look like maybe an oatmeal or a like a cream of wheat. So I don't know how much fussing this will need as far as stirring goes, but I just want to make sure I get all that carrageenan powder in there. There's still some little, I don't want to call it chunks, but so I've got this on high, and we'll bring it up to temperature and we'll come back. I decided that I'm going to go ahead and put our surfactant and propylene glycol in here. I don't know like how much raising and lowering the temperature of this carrageenan will affect it. So why don't we bring everything up to temperature except for our fragrance and preservative. Okay? I'm experimenting, so why not? The worst that's going to happen is I'm going to end up with like slime that I have to wash my own hands with. Okay, I'm going to stop stirring that because I don't want to make a bunch of bubbles. But I can see that it's starting to kind of come together. And right now, what does that look like? Pudding that hasn't set up yet, maybe. No, that's not a very good explanation. What do I think that looks like? Okay, we are at about 168 degrees, so I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to move you guys over to the table, and I'll be right over there. Okay, we are going to, I'm probably going to have to grab a spatula. We're going to take our, all the color sank to the bottom there. See if I can get it off. Alright, we're going to add our cool down ingredients to it now, which would be our fragrance, our preservative, and our color. And we're going to whisk that in. And pour it into our molds. I do notice there's quite a lot of bubbles. I don't know if they'll come to the top. I guess we'll find out together. We're going to let this cool down to room temperature and see what kind of shape they're in, how they kept their definition. Right now, this is very much, let's see, very viscous already, still at a very warm temperature. So we'll see what this does when it cools down. Alright, let's take a look here. The surface temperature is about 89, which isn't quite room temperature, but I'm impatient and I want to see where we're at. So it kept the definition, and actually it'd probably be even a little firmer after after it cools down. But let's go grab some warm water and see how it lathers. So I'm going to just tear a piece off here. Okay, this might work better without gloves on. Okay, let's see what happens when we put it in water. So it does lather up nicely, with it being still 89 degrees. I don't want to be too rough with it, but I mean, it's holding up. And it is creating a nice lather, and it held its shape. So I think it's a success. Okay, we are at about 168 degrees, so I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to move you guys over. We are going to, I'm probably going to have to grab a spatula. We're going to take our, all the color sank to the bottom there. See if I can get it off. Alright, we're going to add our cool down ingredients to it now, which would be our fragrance, our preservative, and our color. And we're going to whisk that in. and pour it into our molds. I do notice there's quite a lot of bubbles. I don't know if they'll come to the top. I guess we'll find out together. We're going to let this cool down to room temperature and see what kind of shape they're in, how they kept their definition. Right now, this is very much, let's see, very viscous already, still at a very warm temperature. So we'll see what this does when it cools down. All right, let's take a look here. The surface temperature is about 89, which isn't quite room temperature, but I'm impatient and I want to see where we're at. So it kept the definition, and actually it'd probably be even a little firmer after after it cools down. But let's go grab some warm water and see how it lathers. Okay, let's see what happens when we put it in water. So it does lather up nicely, with it being still 89 degrees. I don't want to be too rough with it, but I mean, it's holding up. And it is creating a nice lather, and it held its shape. So I think it's a success.